Hello. Have you ever been in the middle of pain and asked,
Where is God?
You pray, waiting for an answer, but all you get is silence. The emptiness in your heart grows, expands. In those moments, you can't help but wonder, does God really exist? If he does, why is he silent? Why doesn't he do anything? Sometimes the pain is so deep that we start to believe God has forgotten us. We cry out to him, yet we hear nothing in return. That silence can feel heavier than the pain itself. It feels like God's absence. A loss, an illness, a betrayal, or maybe it's that long-awaited dream that never came true. In those moments, our first instinct is to ask, God, why do I have to go through this? Why do my prayers feel like they're vanishing into thin air? If you're going through something like this right now, know that you're not alone. Today, we'll talk about this. Where is God when we're in pain? Is his silence truly abandonment? Let's seek answers together. I remember a time when I felt this way deeply. Things in my life weren't going right. The news I was waiting for never came. My plans kept failing, and I felt walls forming between me and the people around me. I kept praying, but nothing changed. It felt like my voice was disappearing into a void. I remember one particular night. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. There was such a heavy weight on my chest. Breathing itself felt difficult. I wanted to pray, but I couldn't even find the words. Finally, I just said, God, if you're there, please give me a sign. And then, silence. The next morning, I hoped something would be different. Maybe I'd feel some peace, but nothing happened. The same uncertainty, the same weight. That's when I asked myself, if God really hears me, why isn't he doing anything? But then, a friend called me. We hadn't spoken in a long time. I answered the phone, too tired to hide my brokenness. As soon as my friend heard my voice, they asked, "You're not okay, are you?" In that moment, my eyes filled with tears. We talked. I didn't share everything, but they listened. They didn't need to say much. Just listening brought me comfort. That day, I realized God's silence wasn't his absence. Sometimes God speaks through a friend's voice, a smile, or an unexplained sense of peace. That conversation with my friend became a turning point for me. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that. But I knew I wasn't alone anymore. God was hearing me, not in the way I expected, but in his own way. So, where is God when we suffer? The Bible offers many answers to this question. One of the most powerful examples is the story of Job. Job was known as a faithful servant of God. He was wealthy, healthy, and had a happy family. But one day, he lost everything. His wealth was stolen, his children died, and his health failed. His pain was so great that he finally said, "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb?" Job 3:11. Job wasn't rebelling against God. He was trying to understand. Why was he suffering so much? Even though he was faithful, why did these things happen to him? Job's friends told him it was because of his sins, but Job knew he was innocent. One of the most striking aspects of Job's story is God's long silence. Job called out to God repeatedly, yet God remained silent. For Job, that silence was perhaps the hardest part. But eventually, God spoke. He revealed the mysteries of the universe, the wonders of creation, and his divine plan. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?" Job 38:4. God's answer didn't instantly remove Job's pain, but it gave him a deeper understanding. God showed that he was in control all along. Job's suffering was part of a greater plan. Even when Job couldn't understand, God's presence was constant. This story reminds us of a powerful truth. God's silence does not mean his absence. Sometimes, God remains silent because he's preparing us for transformation. Pain can be part of our spiritual growth. Let's also remember Jesus' words on the cross. Jesus cried out, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani?" "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. Even Jesus experienced God's silence in his suffering, but that silence wasn't abandonment. It was the beginning of salvation. The crucifixion opened the door to resurrection and redemption. Sometimes God doesn't answer our prayers immediately because he's strengthening us through the pain. He's shaping our character, deepening our faith, and preparing us for something greater. Pain can be part of our spiritual journey. Let's also consider Romans chapter 8:28. "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This is perhaps one of the most powerful promises we can hold on to in times of suffering. Everything is in God's hands, and he is working for our good. Sometimes it takes time to see this, but God never abandons us. If you're in pain right now, know that you are not alone. No matter how deep the silence feels, God has not forsaken you. Even in the midst of your suffering, know that God sees you. Sometimes you pray, yet nothing seems to change. It feels like your voice is lost in the void, but know this: even when God is silent, he is still working. His silence is often a season of preparation. He's strengthening you, refining your character, and guiding you to a deeper understanding and faith. I want to tell you this: what you're feeling is normal. Disappointment, anger, confusion, these are all human emotions. God allows you to feel these things because he understands you. Even Jesus felt God's silence on the cross. So, he doesn't judge your feelings. He accepts you as you are. Maybe right now you feel like giving up. You might be tired of unanswered prayers. But please, don't give up. God hears you. Maybe he's not answering in the way you expect, but he is reaching out, perhaps through a friend, a word of comfort, or maybe through these very words, filling your heart with peace. Remember, God's love is unconditional. Even in the midst of pain, he loves you. Know that you are not alone. God is walking with you right now. And when you come through this, you'll look back and see how he carried you through. If you need to talk, don't hesitate to reach out. A friend, a loved one, or maybe a spiritual guide, you don't have to walk this path alone. Let God use others to support you. Now, take a deep breath. Feel God's peace. He is here. He hears you. He sees you. And he will never leave you. Pain can feel like an endless darkness sometimes. You pray, but there's no answer. You feel alone. But remember, God's silence does not mean his absence. Sometimes God uses silence to grow you, to teach you patience, trust, and a deeper faith. Remember Job's story. Even in his suffering, Job never gave up on God. Remember Jesus' suffering on the cross. Even in that silence, God's plan was unfolding. Sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes we can't see. But God is always working for us. Maybe right now you can't see a way out. But God knows your pain. He sees you. And he is walking with you through the darkness. Just hold on. Trust his timing. Because one day, you'll see how this season shaped you for the better. One final verse to close. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah chapter 40:31. As you wait for God's strength to carry you, keep trusting him. His love will sustain you. As you walk through the pain, you will feel his presence even more deeply. And one day, when this season ends, you'll see how he has strengthened you. God loves you. He sees you, and He will never leave you.